Welcome to a Leader's Journey podcast. I'm your host, Joel Gunn. Super excited today to have Bill Cox on the show. Bill, welcome to the show. This summer, we'll have known each other 10 years. I was thinking about that driving over here.
Yeah.
It's been a fun 10 years, and maybe we'll get to talk about that sometime. But I really wanted, you've been in the manufacturing industry your whole life.
Right.
Manufacturing company, a couple of hundred employees here in the San Antonio area. Very active at the national level in some national organizations, also locally in some peer groups, and with the San Antonio Manufacturers Association, sit on that board. Been involved in the community a lot over the years. A man of faith, which I appreciate. And but one of the things that you're known in the community for is the way you invest in your people. And in particular, I wanted to start off maybe talking about the apprentice program, because I don't know a lot of people even know that's an option or what that is or how that works. And then maybe start with what it is, and certainly share whatever you want to share. But then we dive into the why behind why you do that. But again, welcome to the show.
Sure. Thank you. So explain a little bit about our company. We're a high-volume production machining company, so we need skilled technicians. And honestly, across the nation, my whole career, there's always been concerns for the lack of skilled technicians. And however, it was a well-known fact that the demographics of the baby boomers exiting the workforce in this decade, it was going to be a much more serious problem. So in 2007, I realized we really needed to do some things. And Toyota had come to San Antonio, and even locally, there was an initiative to raise the spotlight for the need for skilled workers in manufacturing in San Antonio. Our manufacturing in San Antonio has been growing not because of, but in spite of the lack of skilled labor. And certainly, honestly, Toyota coming here and some of the other companies, they have invested in developing people, and certainly, they've been a positive influence. But the local manufacturers association got involved in this, and I was on the board at the time, and we started a 501c3. I happen to be the founding chair, and it's still operational today. And that was Alliance for Technology Education in Applied Math and Science, A-teams. And initially, that group was to pull together local manufacturers and educators and to partner with them to help spotlight the career opportunities in manufacturing. And applied math and science ends up, most of those jobs actually are math and science. So on that level, on the community level, I was involved in it. And through the process, I realized the need to build a stronger training program internally. At the time, if memory serves me correctly, we probably had somewhere around 60 employees. And we didn't have a formal training program. We've always been a company that trained people, but it was very informal and unstructured. And we started looking at what it would take to get a registered apprenticeship registered with the Department of Labor, and found out that it really wasn't that hard, but we needed the discipline to develop the curriculum and to develop the outline of the required skills. And initially, we did it with a part-time person, a full-time employee doing it part-time, and that with a 60-person company, it's too much to just dedicate one full-time employee to do that. And the person that runs the program needs to be a good communicator. They need to have the skills themselves, and they need to be able to not just have written, verbal communication skills, but they need written skills to develop the curriculum and communicate. And so as time went on, we had different people internally that wore that hat, and there was always a trade-off when the business demands put pressure on productivity, then it was hard for them to continue the part-time contribution. to the training initiative, and eventually we grew to the point we could have a full-time person. So over the years, we've now been credentialed with 3 different apprenticeships. One is our machinist program, one is the maintenance technician program, and the third one is a quality technician program. And each of those are 3-year programs. And each of those have a component that is an academic piece. Some of those classes we teach in-house, but the majority of them are based on an online curriculum that we license, and we pay the employees an extra hour every week if they do the required classes. They can do those at home online. And so it's a 3-year program, and there's prescribed pay bumps every time they cross the threshold. And it's been instrumental in allowing us the ability to grow the company. So you alluded to the fact that we have 200 employees. So I would definitely say there's no way we could have grown to 200 employees without a structured, driven apprenticeship program to develop our people.
We all talk about, I need to develop my people, but you're actually doing it. You're putting your money where your mouth is. It's not cheap to do these programs, to have that full-time person managing it, to pay for the licensing, and so pay the employees to go to the training. Why? Why do you invest in your people like that?
Well, for multiple reasons. I really believe there is a payback long term. Now, sometimes it's maybe not immediately, and sometimes every individual you invest in, certainly you're not going to get payback every single time. Sometimes you make bad investments, but you move on. But the truth is, we've had unusual growth as a manufacturing company in our sector, and in fact, we were recognized 4 consecutive years to be a fastest growing Inc. 5000 privately held company. And the dirty little secret about that award is half of the companies that get an Inc. 5000 recognition are, in 5 years after getting the award, they are either out of business or the business contracted because of overexpansion, or they were bought under duress. And now every time you make that list, you've made that based on 3 consecutive years of growth compared to peers. Well, we made it 4 years in a row, and I'm very proud of that. Yeah. And there's very few manufacturing.
So with the 3 years prior, it's really
over a 7-year period. Yeah. And there's very few manufacturing companies that get on that list. So to get on that list
and then survive it,
So our growth is slowed down a bit. It's still we're still proud year-over-year growth, year-over-year for every year except the 1 year during COVID. But we slowed the pace down, and that's okay. Mm-hmm. But so I honestly don't believe there's any way we could achieve that without putting focus on developing the workforce. And obviously, there's other pieces that make that work too. Now, you alluded to other things, investing in people. We try to be very holistic with our employees. We do life learner lunches that are optional things. We also do things like wellness programs for our employees. We even sponsor people to marriage retreats. We also we compel all employees to go to the David Ramsey Financial Peace programs, mm-hmm. and we pay them for that time. And we really want them to do that the first year of employment. We find that if people are good stewards of their money, their whole life goes better, their work life is better, their home life's better, life is better.
It's funny how that money thing plays.
Yeah.
I heard today you were talking about the wellness program. There's some incentive. You guys are kicking off your new employee benefits year, and there's some incentive in there that I guess a drawing for a smartwatch or something. So anyway, I just heard about that today. So that's kind of cool. And you've actually had counselors come in and made them available to the employees. You bring doctors, MDs in from time to speak? And
Yeah, right now this year we've got an outside Dr. Torres that's coming once a quarter and doing a presentation. We have an in-house a counselor. We have our own like counselor Troy, like from Star Trek. Remember, people can make appointments with her, and then
you have chaplain.
Yes,
Yep.
That's a good point. The chaplain. We have a corporate chaplain that drops in and is available for people.
Yeah. And for those not familiar with chaplains, that's like a military chaplain or police chaplain or hospital chaplain. You bring them into the workplace. So
right. Yes, it's a national firm. They have a network all across the U.S.
Yeah. Yeah. And and I don't know if you want to touch on you do employee reviews differently. You call them the plus delta. I don't know how easy that is to explain over a video, but I think that's a big part of your culture.
Well, it certainly is a reflection of the culture. A lot of people, when they join our company, that are, especially if they've come from a management or leadership area, they're really questioning how that can really work. But the way it works is we do a 360-degree review and every employee gets a review with their peers, their subordinates, and their superior. And it's a small group, maybe 6 to 8 in the room, and start off by talking about, okay, what's going right? What are the pluses? And we let the employee go first to see their own self-awareness. It's a healthy process. And then we go around the room and people, as they feel led, they cite what are the pluses, and then you shift over what are the deltas, and the deltas are not pluses and minuses. They're what could be better. What are the opportunities for improvement? And again, we start with the employee that's being reviewed, and again, when they show self-awareness, nobody's perfect, okay, and everybody's got opportunities to improve. So that's always a positive thing. And then next you open it up around the room. And what that does, I think, is it creates a culture of people talking to each other and communicating, because the ideal environment is for people to not hold, if they have an issue, for them to talk about it, and preferably not for it to wait until the annual review or something,
or till
talk to each other.
Bottles up to a point that.
Yes, exactly. So, and we want people to communicate with each other, and we found that has been a positive contribution to the culture.
And when they're new, there's more frequency. Once they've been there a while, it's an annual thing.
Exactly. Yeah. When they're new, they'll start. The first one will be within a few weeks, and then it gradually gets further and further spacing. And even when people are fairly new in the company, they'll have an opportunity to sit on someone else's plus delta. And I was just delighted to sit on one myself a few years ago, where an employee had only been with us maybe 4 months, and they were sitting on the first review for another employee, and how they were coaching the other employee on the minor little things of leaving his area orderly at the shift change, and I mean, it's really great for each other to communicate to each other what their expectation is. And honestly, I think it's more powerful than the supervisor coming over. I think the guy that's coming on the second shift, and he's saying, you need to put things back in their place, so when I come in, I can do my job and I can be efficient, rather than just have the supervisor scolding the guy. If you can have the employees holding each other accountable, it's a win-win.
Yeah, and it's you have your plus delta, so it's every level of the organization.
Yep.
Yeah. What have you ever had anybody just like terminate their employment because they don't like that plus delta process?
No, never have. No. We have had some things really come out at that where there's pent up things and people start talking about things. Mm-hmm. But I mean, it's good to get things out in the open. That's what you want. You don't want to just.
Yeah. And I've sat through several of them over the years at your invitation, and it's a really cool process because that's the one thing. You've been in a lot of what we call on-site visits where you go visit a company and you tour the company and maybe you get an opportunity to talk to the people. And if you ever get down and dirty, conversation with them, like where could this company improve? What do you almost always hear? Communication, right? And so this plus Delta process really tackles that major, elephant in the room, so to speak, because it forces people to we've got to do this, and it's done in such a professional way. It's not condescending. It starts off with encouragement. These aren't problems or issues or negatives. These are opportunities for improvement at Delta, and it's a beautiful thing, I think. And I know a lot of your peers, you've encouraged other companies to look at it, and other industries even have adopted it, restaurants and other people outside the manufacturing space. So it's a really cool thing. But I guess we were talking about why do you invest in your people, and you mentioned there's a long-term gain on their better employees. But what's your heart? What's driving that? I mean, yes, there's financial, possible gains there, but there's got to be more than that.
Well, our vision statement for the company, I think, speaks to that. So our vision is to be a premier supplier to our customers while being providing a high quality of life for our employees and being a positive influence for Christ. And so those second two bullet points, I think, are only fulfilled by really caring for your people and just pointing them in the right direction and helping them grow as individuals.
Just before the show, we were talking about some of the things we might discuss, and there's an area that I think a lot of business owners at first glance might push back on, but I'd love to hear your perspective on this idea that not everybody should go to college.
Well, I think that's something I'm pretty passionate about. Especially being a part of this workforce development thing, and that we started that in 2007, and there has been a slow but steady realization in the education community that it's not a good idea to try to push everyone to college, and it's really shameful to insinuate or imply that a person will not be successful unless they go to college. Mm-hmm. And I mean, it is shameful that some parents have that in their mind and they convey that to their kids. Some kids, that's just not the best path for them. Mm-hmm. I know Elon Musk has actually become a big advocate of, he doesn't care what degrees people have, it's what can they do.
I know Google and Apple and Amazon or somebody a few years ago dropped the college requirements on their applications.
Right. There's getting to be momentum there, but there's still probably not enough. There's still, I think, a lot of people go to college without purpose, mm-hmm. and I think that's pretty unproductive. But the image of manufacturing is a very technical skill, a very technical field, and there's a lot of opportunity of it. There's certainly some career paths into manufacturing that would align with a college education, and there's other career paths where that wouldn't be necessary. In our own engineering department, it is a good example. We have some that are degreed and some that just have a wealth of knowledge and experience, and
a natural gift to pick it up.
Yeah, there's people that are just wired with that gifting, and they've developed it. And the people the top of the one individual that heads our engineering department. He doesn't happen to have a degree, but he's good with people. He understands the technology. He has a wealth of knowledge, and he's the right guy for the role. Mm-hmm. So we don't. It's all merit based. It's not credential based.
I remember you had introduced me to some folks here in the community that were in the education space, and in a small group of folks, they actually admitted that some of the senior educators at a university level, well-known university here in town, I won't name, that they had actually had, dinner conversations over how ethical was it to graduate all these people with, I'll pick on an English degree, when there was more people graduating with that degree than there was demand for it. And they were actually wrestling among themselves, like, is that even ethical to allow that?
Yeah, and our education system has not been on the right track. And people actually are starting to talk more and more about that. But for years, we've talked about our runaway healthcare cost. Well, the education cost has been on the same trajectory, and the ROI, graduating people with degrees that are there's no return on that investment is kind of sad. And to be honest, we get a lot of people that apply for jobs with us for our apprenticeship program that come to us with degrees that are not marketable, and they're happy to take the entry-level apprenticeship job.
Because it's paid as well as whatever else, and better than what they can get somewhere else.
And sometimes they got the degree in something that they realized, well, I was kind of interested in that, but
it wasn't
that history degree. I don't want to be a teacher. I love history. Yeah. Well, what do I do with that degree? I don't want to be a librarian or a teacher. So, maybe. So,
the first time I really became aware of how you felt about this was actually I think you were actually interviewed by one of the local TV stations, and then some of your people were interviewed, and some people out at Toyota, and the whole news report was on this idea of, could somebody without a college degree make more than somebody with one? And they interviewed a couple of your people and a couple of young people at Toyota that were making more than their peers that had gone to college, and in some cases substantially more than their peers that had gone to college.
It can happen. The key is to get in the area of your gifting, what you're going to be passionate about, what you're interested in, and apply yourself. And there's simply some degrees and career paths that the upside's not that's strong.
Speaking of giftings, you guys also do an assessment of that as people are coming into your company. You want to talk about that for a moment and why that's important to you?
Yeah, we use a couple of different tools to try to understand that person's slant and to not be trying to put a square peg in the round hole.
And do you think that helps?
I do. Yeah, I think it helps us place people in the right role.
You seem, and I don't know the number, but it seems like you guys have lower turnover than the industry. And I think that's one because of the culture you've created. For example, the chaplain, the counselor, the sending people to Dave Ramsey or to marriage seminars or, all those things that you do for them. But I also think that this understanding of how they're wired at the beginning of the hiring conversation has to be a critical component to that overall.
Yeah. Yeah, and we're making an investment in people, so it's important that we're picking people that are a good fit, that's a round peg for the round hole, that they have the aptitude and the stick-to-itiveness and the instincts to enjoy the kind of work that would be training them for.
Do you think that slows down your hiring process?
Yeah, it definitely does. Yeah.
To your detriment, or do you think the benefits outweigh the?
Oh, the benefits outweigh it because we reduce the the rehires or mishires. Yeah.
So if somebody's watching or listening to this podcast, and this idea of pre-screening or this early screening, how would you, the companies of all sizes, I'm sure smaller companies are going to, it'd be cost prohibitive because you guys pay for a service, I believe.
Yeah.
What would your advice be to the smaller companies, the mid-sized companies, if they wanted to implement something like that?
There's different tools out there. I'm not sure what the pricing would be on the smaller. And there's always, if you're hiring one employee, it may not be worth even learning all the nuances. If you're hiring, 10 per year or 5 per year, you do need to educate yourself and your team on it.
Did you ever use anything like strength finders or disc assessments? Or
I'm familiar with those. We've used them internally, not as an employee selection tool. Neither one of those are validated for
selection.
They may give you some insights on an individual. The DISC is similar to the one that we use. It's the best one we found. We use Culture Index.
Right. Yeah, I've heard good things about that particular program. If you don't mind, let's shift subjects. You're like well connected in the local community manufacturing for sure. You're involved nationally in several manufacturing organizations and related organizations, but you also travel internationally and talk to manufacturers there. Where do you see American manufacturing going in the near and long term?
Yeah. Okay. Well, you alluded to me traveling internationally. I've done a little bit of that, being a member of a national association that has European affiliates, and every 2 years they'll meet in one of the member countries and visit facilities. So I've been blessed with the opportunity to visit facilities in Sweden, Switzerland, France, Ireland, Spain, a good array. And all of those countries are suffering from the need for more skilled workers. It's a global problem, really. I would argue the Europeans have been better at apprenticeship programs for a long time. In fact, for many years, the United States was the beneficiary of immigrants from Europe that were highly trained, highly skilled. That for decades and decades and decades, the U.S. had benefited from that. But that for probably the last at least 50 years, that we have not been getting that influx of highly skilled apprentice graduates from Europe. We now to understand the landscape some. So we utilize a lot of European machines. The biggest majority is from Switzerland, who's famous for real high quality precision equipment, and they have a very advanced apprenticeship system there, as they have for decades. But they still have the same challenging. In Switzerland, they say, well, we're after some of the same students that are good in math that the banking community wants to hire them in the finance sector. And yeah, they do. Yeah. And so it's a challenge, but there's no substitute for doing something you love. So globally, the high costs, the first world countries, Europe and the United States, share some of the challenges. Our labor costs are higher than China. And China, there's no secret, they've been buying their way into markets all over. In my whole career, the work we've been losing work to China that would just undercut our prices. Way back early in my career, we were making parts for Daisy air rifle firearms, and we also we were making, we made the initial prototypes for Zebco fishing reels, for the open face reels, and we were making parts for other reels. They used to make them in Oklahoma. And I thought we were going to be making the production volume for when they started, they designed them in Oklahoma. We made the first 100 prototypes for the open face Zebco fishing reels, but the corporate made the decision to get the whole thing made in Asia. And that happened like in 1980. And I've been dealing with that my whole career. Finally now, I think Americans, especially after COVID, realize buying so much from China and having such long supply chains is not the best idea always. There's a hidden value in having a supplier that's closer to you. We've grown our business, as I started off with explaining, and it's because there are businesses that want to work close with the manufacturer, to collaborate with them, to optimize their designs, optimize their cost. They value the short supply chain and the quality and the integrity. So many U.S. companies have been ripped off in their designs, taking them to China. It's just it is just outrageous, nothing less than outrageous. Beyond that, there's an integrity issue. There's also issues with what if there's a quality problem? How long does it take to resolve it? When there's a boatload of the same grade of product, already on a ship on the way over here. So there's a lot of hidden cost that was harder to calculate than just looking at a piece of paper. This is the price per part. Once you add up all those other things, people are starting to do that, starting to look at the value of integrity, protecting your intellectual property, the value of the shorter supply chain, the collaboration in optimizing and taking cost out of your design, improving your product. So that's our selling proposition, really, like when we sell against a foreign supplier that's a low cost.
Are you hopeful? There's with all the presidential stuff the last year in particular, a lot of conversation about reshoring. Do you think that's all good?
It already was in motion, and it's been coming back. It won't happen overnight. And if we needed to, if we've lost so much to reverse it so quickly. We couldn't do it, and that's kind of a scary thing. It took us decades to get here. Like I alluded, 1980, Zebco making the decision not to make their fishing reel in Oklahoma, but to make it in Asia. To start gradually reversing that is going to take a long time, but we need the skilled labor and we need the commitment. And we need the accountants to do the full math on the value of making it here.
Do you think the skilled labor is going to keep that from happening, or do you think we'll figure out how to solve that?
The skilled labor will be a constraint, but we can. Technology has made it possible for us to do a lot of things that were. A lot of very complex things today that would have been very, very, very difficult in the past. Just and that kind of could dovetail into a whole nother deal. But so we're on the cusp of a fourth industrial revolution. And just to put in perspective, the first industrial revolution was the early steam engines and early mechanization. And now you had power that could drive a factory. Then the next phase was application of electricity. So now you could put electric motors on individual machines, have basically relay logic in the machines, little micro switches and sensors, basic stuff. All that is what the technology through World War II. Okay, so when I actually entered the manufacturing, very few businesses had any kind of computer at all. Our CPA bought their first mini computer when I was just getting involved in the business. personal computers didn't exist. That was the beginning of the third industrial revolution, to start putting computers in businesses, and for manufacturing, putting computers on machines. So we had, prior to that, the second industrial revolution was machines. We would make custom cams for the particular part that we were producing. The design, the lobes and the rises and falls on the cams were all uniquely designed to make a particular part. That's how we created the motion to automate the production. When the computers came out and you put computers on the machine, you had the computer manipulating motors to control motions. Now you could do very complex motions, make very complex parts, and you could do it all complete on one machine. So a part that we would have made in the 1980s, we might make that part, and there's parts literally that it would have been handled 5 times that we could make in one step now. Very complex with machines that have 12 axes of motion. And so now we're able to, the work level, and you look at that kind of technology, it's very automated. That's the third industrial revolution. The second industrial revolution, you manually load the bar, the part comes out, and you reload the part 4 more times. The third industrial revolution, you have a robotic bar loader, so you put a stack of bars in it, and the machine has 12 axes of motion and completes the part all in one step. Complete part comes out.
It's ready to go.
Yes. And so that's where we're at. Now, the fourth industrial revolution is the new phase we're entering, and it's machines talking to machines and making the skilled technicians even more productive. So I'm optimistic we're going to continue to see some things like that.
Which will allow more reshoring, even in the absence of skilled labor.
It will reduce labor. Yeah, the skill level is actually going to go up and up. Like we have one application where we have a collaborative robot that sits right by a machine and measures every part as the machine makes it and makes sure that everything's right. So we'll see more and more of that stuff. But you have to have people that can leverage that technology.
Yeah, it's interesting. As you said that, I was thinking, pretty much all trades tech has made its way into. Like, imagine trying to work on a home HVAC system, the computer interface now. And yeah, the basics are the same as they were for 40 or 50 years, but how it's delivered and the interface with the phone and talking to the home Wi-Fi. And I mean, it's simple technology for, somebody that's grown up with it, but it's different than it was years ago. And I suspect, it's going to continue to change. Car mechanics.
Same thing. Yes.
Cars used to be just fairly simple. You open the hood and there's hardly anything under there. You open today's modern car, you think about all the things that could go wrong on a 2024 car.
Right.
Yeah, just from a technology point of view, and having to troubleshoot that. So yeah, I think even the skills, as you said, your person running that piece of production machinery is going to have more skills tomorrow than the people did 30 years ago. Just they got to understand why the computer is doing what it's doing, and you got to have programmers and engineers to support that.
Yeah, in many ways, it's getting more complex, and it's just simple things as like for example, drilling a hole. When I started my career, there was a limited number of drill designs with certain types of material, known as high-speed steel, and some carbide, but they had limited applications. The designs have blown up. There's probably 50 times more drill designs, and the old drill designs are still out there, and they still have their place. But you can exploit these new designs that become very expensive drills, but they're super high performance, where there may be an application. For example, there was one that used to take 22 seconds to drill a hole. We could blow the hole in there in 7 seconds. And it just, these little incremental steps. So now the planner that designs the process for that, he used to have a short list of drills, and then now he's got this broad array that he needs to, okay, what's really the best optimal solution to apply. So the other stuff is still out there, and then you got the new layer to add on it. But another piece of perspective, it used to be the old timers would regrind their drills themselves. So that was a standard thing. The machinist you'd buy a drill, you'd run it till it's dull. Then it's dull, you take it out, take it over to the grinder, hand grind it, and you would train the young apprentice to do that. Well, we don't teach them to do that anymore because we have a CNC, a computerized numerical control drill grinder that will grind it, and we have a specialist that will take care of that. It's send it to the tool room. Nobody, the new machinists now, they don't know how to grind drills. Unfortunately, sometimes it's just if the machine ground the drill wrong, and the new guys are given a bad drill, they haven't developed the eye to tell what's wrong with it. So we try to teach that, even though teaching them the skill to do it, at least that's off the plate.
So recently there's video gone viral of one of Elon Musk robots catching a tennis ball.
Oh.
And so where do you see robots coming into the workforce, especially manufacturing?
Well, if Elon Musk can build some robots that can do some simple things that could walk around the plant, that could be huge. I don't know how far out it is. I think since, if I remember right, since 2016, every year he's been saying full self-driving cars are coming out next year. So, but I know they're getting closer and closer. But whether they're 10 years away or 15 or 5.
Do you see yourself being an early adopter of that kind of technology?
Yeah. Well, we already have a collaborative robot for a job, and
so a collaborative robot doesn't look humanoid.
No,
it's fully functional. You might mistake it for a piece of machinery just sitting there, right?
Yeah.
But it's got, what makes it collaborative?
Well, what makes it collaborative is you don't have to keep it in a cage. Up until the collaborative robots, you had to keep them in cages because they were dangerous. If they swing around and do their thing and they pay no attention to who's in their way, they're going to do what they do. So finally, once you had a collaborative robot, you could take the cages off and it can work beside a person. If you walk up to it and then it bumps into you, it's going to stop. It's not going to just whack you and keep moving.
Yeah, and I've even, I don't know if you're a member of like Sam's Club or Costco or something, but Sam's Club has a floor cleaning machine that has the sensors on it. I don't know if you'd call it a collaborative robot, but similar technology that if it senses a human in its path, it just stops and waits because it's got nothing else to do except clean the floors. So,
right.
And they've mapped out the whole warehouse, and they've got QR codes every so often throughout the building to help it reorient where it is, and GPS and all that stuff. But so it's even that technology is being loosed among places that were. I mean, I remember as a kid, you go into Sam's or Costco and there's people standing around the forklifts and they're blocking off aisles and because they don't want people getting hurt. Well, pretty soon that won't be a thing because it'll just stop as soon as you get close to it. A lot of people are scared of AI and robotics. You seem like the kind of guy that likes innovation. Do you think how legit do you think some of that is to be afraid of it?
I think, and I follow Elon Musk a bit, and I agree with him that we need to not be naive of the risk of AI. It's real. There's a lot of potential. And whether we like it or not, it's going to be exploited for good and for evil.
Yeah, I was just talking with AI yesterday about that very thing, and it was like it's not so much you should be concerned about the AI going rogue as much as the humans using the AI to do bad things.
Yeah.
And so that'll be interesting. You've said this before, but I'll ask it as a question. has the best part of your career come and gone, or is there more fun stuff ahead?
I still have fun every day.
Yeah.
Can't wait to get back in the shop tomorrow morning.
You're excited about Industry 4.0?
Yeah, we've actually we've got one patent issued for things we've developed, and we've got a patent pending, and we've got other ideas. But we're involved in some new products and processes that we're developing, and there's always new opportunities.
Yeah, good. Any final thoughts as we bring this show to a close?
No.
Well, thanks for coming out today, Bill. It's a real honor. You've been a big blessing to me over the years, and in several different ways that you know of, and a lot of others that I've told about. But a real privilege to have you here today, and thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of A Leader's Journey podcast. If you enjoyed it, give us a thumbs up, and remember to subscribe to our channel.